Hello friends, in this video we will be discussing about the role of marine planktons, especially the role of phytoplanktons and the problem faced by these due to the ocean acidification. Our oceans cover more than 70% of the total surface of the earth. The most vital organisms living in these oceans are known as planktons or referred to as marine planktons. Plankton is derived from a Greek word called planktos, which means wandering. Marine planktons are referred to as living organisms which spends a major part of its life cycle in water. The size may vary from as tiny as a small bacteria to as large as bigger than a blue whale. Planktons in the ocean can be subdivided into bacterioplankton, phytoplankton, and zooplankton. Bacterioplankton are minute unicellular organisms which are made up of archaea or bacterium. Plant-based planktons are referred to as phytoplanktons, in whose absence the marine ecosystem is most likely to collapse. The microscopic animals are called zooplanktons. Let's start this by taking a deep breath. Now, 50% of the oxygen that just went through your nostrils into your lung was derived from phytoplanktons in our oceans. They use the energy of the sun to convert carbon dioxide and nutrients into carbohydrates and other vital molecules required for life. Phytoplanktons can form edible gold from carbon dioxide and sunlight. In absence of phytoplanktons, the zooplanktons will have no food, hence they will also perish. As a result of it, organisms dependent on zooplankton such as small fishes, birds, polar bears and dolphins will also meet the same fate. The death of fishes means no fishing industry. No fishing industry means no employment to the millions of people who work here currently. It means no food to the millions of people who prefer fish as their first meal. This will cause a food shortage and also an economic crisis. Dead cells on the ocean floor are converted to petroleum and sedimentary rocks, which are released afterwards from volcanoes. This process is known as biological pump. For thousands of years, phytoplanktons called coccolithophores are responsible for maintaining the temperature in our oceans and decreasing the amount of carbon dioxide present in it. Coccolithophore produces shells of calcium carbonate known as coccoliths around the shell. These plates consume more carbon dioxide than they actually emit. This leads to less heat being absorbed by the ocean, and hence the temperature remains regulated. In fact, ocean absorbs 25% of the CO2 emitted by human activities. They respond rapidly to environmental changes. Phytoplanktons calcify organisms and sink them to the floor of the ocean, where they can remain unchanged for thousands of years or can come back into the atmosphere in the form of gas. Without phytoplanktons, oceans would just be a barren land filled with water. In the past few decades, we have observed a decline in the number of these vital organisms. The primary reason is the decreasing pH in our oceans or the increasing amount of acids in our oceans. The pH of the ocean water is slightly basic, but the shift towards neutral pH due to human factors is known as ocean acidification. The CO2 levels in the oceans have increased by over 40% in the past 3 centuries. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere reacts with water and forms carbonic acid. It separates to form a bicarbonate ion and an H+ ion. The bicarbonate further releases 2 H+ ions and a carbonate ion. The amount of CO2 absorbed increases, hence the amount of H+ released also increases subsequently. This ultimately increases the acidity of the water and is not favorable for the growth and functioning of phytoplanktons, and it ultimately kills it. It has been observed that a decrease of 1% of phytoplankton population per year between the year 1998 to 2012 in the oceans of the northern hemisphere. This is a constant decline in its population and can be very disastrous for our ocean ecosystem. A major part of this surplus CO2 is usually derived from human activities such as burning of fossil fuels from factories or from vehicles. Scientists believe if we continue releasing carbon dioxide at the current rate, it would lead to mass death of such phytoplanktons and we won't have an ocean ecosystem left. A further decrease of pH by 0.3 is also predicted by the end of this century. It also leads to phenomena like the coral bleaching, which happens when the coral is facing survival difficulties. This means is that less carbon dioxide would now be deposited on the ocean floor and its amount in the atmosphere would increase subsequently. Phytoplanktons at risk means the entire ocean ecosystem at risk and ultimately the entire planet at risk. It can lead to the death of all the predators who survive by consumptions of phytoplanktons. There would no more be carbon dioxide regulations in our oceans. There would be a severe shortage of oxygen as they are the chief producers of oxygen. More CO2 means more global warming. Hence, without phytoplankton it will be very difficult. We aren't actually in a state where we have much options. The only solution we have for this problem is to cut down our dependence on fossil fuel which emits maximum CO2 and look for more carbon-free alternatives. We need proper legislation from all countries across the world. Initially, it might not be economically favorable, but on the large scale, it would be a big step towards clean and carbon-free energy. Research in this field should be emphasized on by the government bodies. Awareness should be created by including this in the school and university curriculum. The general public should also be made a part of this, and the participation must be ensured by all. We conclude that phytoplanktons are vital in the survival of each and every organism, and the decrease of its number due to ocean acidification may have a catastrophic impacts on all the living beings. Hence, it is very essential to establish control over the factors which harm its survival. In short, no phytoplanktons means no Earth.